first things first, when they had to go rummaging through the dark recesses of that courthouse to find Melanie Gibb when it was her turn to testify, I was like, I am done. Slap May Silly and Kyle May Willie. This is the crowning moment of 2020. I was actually more surprised that she ended up showing up. Y'all, today we are going to start my little series and edition on the Daybell preliminary hearing. And there is so much to dish on. I'm going to be breaking this up into segments. And today, specifically, we're talking about Melanie Gibb's day one on the stand. And I'm actually going to break this down to a couple of different videos. So this one is going to be primarily focused around like what we learned, what stuck out to me during her testimony. So let's go ahead and get edition. So in the beginning, when the special prosecutor, Rob Wood, is up there and he's talking to Melanie, and he is establishing, well, how did you meet Lori and Chad? And what was the nature of your relationships? And with Chad, she says, but the nature of our relationships was we were talking about his books, and we were talking about he and Lori's relationship. And I'm just like, oh yeah, that doesn't sound like a completely narcissistic, one-sided relationship. Though I've come to literally expect nothing less out of the likes of Daybell and Belle. Now, Melanie Gibb says that she met Lori at church, and that her relationship or the nature of it with Lori was based on their spiritual conversations. And Lord mercy, does she give us a little peek behind the curtain at one of those spiritual conversations? That's an entirely different video. Stay tuned for that one. Let's continue. Now, one of the first things that really jumped out to me was when they talk about the now infamous weekend that Melanie and David spent at Lori's townhome in Rexburg, Idaho. And for the most part, she recounts this on the stand the same way that we've heard her talk about this already. Now, she recounts how, she saw Alex bringing JG into the house while they were doing their podcast. She recounts on the day that her and David headed out that morning when they were at Lori's, and basically Lori was like, well, look, JJ had all this energy and he was crawling around in the cabinets, and he knocked a picture of Jesus over. And it was during this time on the stand that there seemed to be one very important word missing that we've all been captivated to hear come out of these crazy people's mouths. Zombies! I found it interesting that Melanie never said that, and she treated saying that word almost as if it would make her sound completely nutso. How strange. Now, Melanie also talks about some of the conversations that her and Lori had that weekend at the townhome. And one, for instance, was the conversation that Lori was trying to manipulate Kay Woodcock into taking JJ back in, or one of Kay's sons taking him in, and Lori was essentially going to be using the whole, I have cancer, I'm sick, to try and get sympathy, I guess, to take JJ away. So, not only is this just like, really, girl, we don't expect anything less out of Lori, but this will also become interesting because of the things that Melanie says later, when we know that she already knows these things about Lori, what she's capable of. So it's one of those things where you're like, why are you still standing by this person? Y'all, Gibb is literally not doing Daybell or Lori any favors on the stand. And speaking of Daybell, I found this little bit of shade from Melanie. I was like, oh, didn't know girl had it in her. So when asked about who Charles Vallow was, Melanie kind of like silences for a second, and then she says, Lori's husband. And then the camera pans to Chad, and he's there looking like a deflated damn bullfrog. Now, y'all, some of the hottest damn tea up in here. Starbucks has to put a warning label on the cups over it. Put your sofa seatbelt on before we get to going. So the questioning turns to the time where the cops were trying to get a hold of Melanie. Now, this is when they were doing the wellness check, the welfare check, at the house there in Rexburg. Lori and them are saying, oh no, the kids, JJ's with Melanie, and so the cops are trying to reach her. Now this, I was just like, oh my God, I can't believe she's saying this. Now remember, this is the whole thing where, Lori had called, Chad had called, each of them separately to Melanie, each with a different story. Chad saying, look, the cops are going to call you, don't answer. And Lori saying, we're going to tell them that the kids are, the JJ's with you, take some pictures of some kids playing and send it to us. That's all going on behind the scenes. Now, the Rexburg police try and get a hold of her. That doesn't happen. And they ask her, look, why didn't you get up with them? Why didn't you call them back? Or did you? And what Melanie says is very interesting to me. The first thing she says is, because Chad told me not to. That was her knee-jerk thing on the stand to say. Chad told me not to. I think this first and foremost speaks to the power that Chad had and might still have over her to some very slight degree. I'm not 100% sure on that one, but there's some kind of remnants of him left over in those beliefs and whatnot. But at a certain time, I think definitely he had a lot of mental control over her. Now, she also cites, you know, saying, look, Lori had told me all this stuff was going on. People are out to get her. I didn't know what to believe. Now, this is the part that I circle back to where I'm like, okay, hold on. So you already know the zombie thing's going on here. You know, people around her that have been called zombies have disappeared. She was calling JJ a zombie when you were there for the weekend. You know, I could go on and on. You know, she's going to manipulate Kay into taking JJ by saying she has cancer. All these things that are going on. All this death around her. And so that's where I'm like, okay, but now you want to say, well, I didn't know what was going on, you know, and yada, yada, yada. I mean, at what point do you question, is Kay and them really after her? Now, again, even hotter tea. This is the McDonald's coffee in your lap tea spillage hot. She then says, okay, well, you know, the Gilbert police, they stopped by my house that night. And remember, the Rexburg police couldn't get a hold of her, so they reach out to the Gilbert police, her local police. They go to her house. They make contact with her. And she says to them that JJ had been with her, but he was back with Lori. So I was like, oh my God. So at the end of it all, she covers for Lori. Now, she says on the stand, you know, I was trying to divert the attention back to Lori. You know, I basically saying, well, yeah, I did have him, but, you know, he's back with Lori now. And I'm just like, girl, no. Number one, here's my thing. If she felt in danger herself, she could have been like, look, y'all, these people are crazy. I want protection here. Y'all need to go find out what's going on. But no, instead she chose to cover. So essentially we're hearing her on the stand admitting to lying. And not just like a little lie about something, but I mean covering up for the kids missing. Y'all, we didn't hear any of this tea when she was busy sniffing grapes on the B-roll while she was doing interviews with Nate Eaton. Now listen, y'all, this is going to be it for this video. If you want to see more of my commentary and reactions to some of this case, just check out these other videos and be on the lookout. The next video I'll be doing is the Cora Horror Call. We've got a lot to say about that one. Thanks for joining. See you on the next video.